All righty. Well, welcome one and welcome all to the one, the only Junk Shop Library channel, home of so many things and of yours truly in particular. Thank you so much for joining me here today for the kicking off episode of an entirely new and somewhat different series. This series was requested by a new but faithful viewer of the channel. You know who you are, my friend. Who asked me specifically to cover something out of order. And I kicked around the idea for a while, and then I decided, you know what? I'll take requests. I got nothing against that. Now, having said that, the tone of today's episode is going to be a little different. The viewer who suggested this the episode that has become this new series. Y'all, pardon me, my allergies acting up. Found me, at least as far as I can tell, looking for somebody reading the Bible. And I don't know what their belief or lack of belief system is. So I'm going to try to tread a little lighter than I normally do. Having said that, old Junk Shop don't pull too many punches, as y'all know. Welcome, all y'all fantastic people in the chat. I'm so glad you found me today. Apparently my notifications are jacked up yet again. Before we launch into things, I would be remiss if I did not thank my fantastic patrons. These are the folks who have visited patreon.com/junkshoplibrary and pledged their monetary support to the channel for as little as $1 a month, or as much as, my great goodness, what do you see in me? These are the folks who keep us going, keep us lit, keep us mic'd, keep us streaming 6 days a week, multiple streams a day sometimes, and who have allowed us to kick off things like the new study of the Book of Mormon, Saturdays at 5:30 Eastern. Sorry, 6:30 Eastern. 6:30 Eastern. If you show up at 5:30 Eastern, you're going to be waiting a minute. 60 minutes, to be precise. But the patrons really and truly are doing us a tremendous service, both with their financial support and with their moral support and with their constructive criticism and feedback. And I want y'all to know how much I appreciate y'all, one and all. Particular shout outs and thanks have to go to my top 2 tiers patrons, my illuminated manuscripts, and my genuine calfskin level patrons. Captain Kimothy, Paul Camish, the original patron, and Bill. These folks really and truly have gone above and beyond, and I am appreciative to a level I can't really explain. Thank you. My, the chat is filling up. I love it. All right. Thank you all so very much for coming out. It's fantastic. All right. Well, the verse we're going to be looking at today, what I was asked to cover was Jude chapter 13, verse 1. I'm not entirely sure what that means, because Jude only has a chapter. So we're going to be looking at verse 1 and verse 13, just to be sure. And if I misread that message altogether, my friend, let me know in the comments below, as I know you will. All right. So the first verse of the Epistle of Jude reads, Jude, the servant of Jesus Christ and brother of James, to them that are sanctified by God the Father and preserved in Jesus Christ and called. I must have misread that somehow, because there is no way that is somebody's favorite Bible verse. Just Jude introducing himself, his by way of his faith and his brotherhood, brother of James. I suppose we're supposed to know who James was. Preserved in Jesus Christ. I don't know what that means. Oh, you're in the chat. Hey, good to see you. I don't know how to pronounce your name, to be honest. I don't know what that character is. But welcome. And let me know in the chat if I'm reading the wrong one. Okay, so it was verse 13. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, good. I figured it probably had to be. I just wanted to make sure my bases were covered. Flower. Okay. That's how I've been thinking of you. So I'm not entirely crazy and wrong about this. All right. So verse 13 reads, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Ooh, that's downright Lovecraftian, isn't it? All right. Let's see. Raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame. Now, wandering stars, in 1611, wandering stars would have been what we now call planets. They look like stars, but they move around in the sky. But they were often held to have personalities and be at least some form of sentient. To whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Lost in interstellar space, moving around on their own, trespassing in other territories. And the part preceding it. Okay, let's see. Verse 12. These are the spots in your feasts of charity, when they feast with you, feeding themselves without fear. Clouds they are, without water, carried about of winds, trees whose fruit withereth without fruit, twice dead, plucked up by the roots, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. Wow. Mr. Jude is not a fan of whoever he's characterizing here. Let's see. This is this whole block, the middle of the Epistle of Jude, seems to refer to some interlopers in the church. I'm just scanning back here, all the way back to verse 4. For there are certain men crept in unawares, who were before of old ordained to this condemnation. Ooh, very Calvinist. Ungodly men, turning the grace of our God into lasciviousness, and denying the only Lord God and our Lord Jesus Christ. And it goes on to talk about the rebellious angels and Sodom and Gomorrah, filthy dreamers that defile the flesh. Okay, interesting. I'm not familiar with Jude. I don't know that I've ever read Jude, even back in my Sunday school and churching days. But given the context, it seems that there's some, like I said, some interlopers in the church and in the faith, some heretics who are drawing folk away from the one true faith, and who deserve to be greatly condemned, as they are bringing condemnation upon all who surround them. Except that their perverseness was foreordained of old by God. Got to admit, I'm not a fan of predestination as a doctrine. I think it's an easy way out of some hard questions. I'm certainly not a fan of the doctrine of double predestination, that there are the elect who were selected for salvation from before the dawn of time, and there are also the non-elect who are selected for damnation since before the dawn of time. It's a weird doctrine. I maintain, again, that it's an easy way out of some hard questions to do with free will and the existence or not thereof. And there's the doctrine of there being some people who are destined for hell from before the time they were born just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't like it. I didn't realize, honestly, that it had scriptural basis. I always assumed it was just some stupid doctrine that some theologian had come up with, probably during the Dark Ages. But no, apparently it's right there in the Bible, at least in this incarnation of the Bible. Y'all want to do a little comparative translation while we're here? We're not going to run the full hour on this, but I'm kind of interested and intrigued. Let's see, where shall we go first? How about the good old Protestant-backed, ever-popular, New Revised Standard Version? Make sure I don't flash my real full name on the title page. This was given to me as a graduation present from, what was it, my third grade graduation, something painfully mediocre like that. First and Second Peter, First, Second, Third John, Jude, and Revelation. All right. I'm going to back up into verse 12 so I can get to the start of the actual sentence. They are waterless clouds carried along by the wind, autumn trees without fruit, twice dead, uprooted, wild waves of the sea, casting up the foam of their own shame, wandering stars for whom the deepest darkness has been reserved forever. Heard. It is. It's downright Lovecraftian. Is the phraseology there? Interesting. I like it. All right. Let's see if the New Children's Bible, perfect for ages 7 through 12, and endorsed by Dr. James Dobson's Focus on the Family magazine. Let's see if it has to say anything in a more see if it takes it in a more positive light. I bet not. They are clouds without rain. The wind blows them around. They are trees that have no fruit when it is time and are pulled out of the ground. So they are dead 2 times. They are like wild waves in the sea. These people do shameful things in the same way waves make foam. They are like stars that wander in the sky. A place in the blackest darkness has been kept for them forever. Okay, well that at least, that's a nice straightforward translation of that waves making foam piece. These people do shameful things in the same way waves make foam, i.e. always, forever, and just because it's their nature. That's the way God made them. Interesting. Interesting. There's a lot here. Thank you, Flower. I would not have, it never would have occurred to me to reach down into the middle of Jude to do a random, interesting. Let's see what the study notes say. I've got here the NIV Study Bible from Zondervan Press. Whoops, no, that's the index to the maps. That won't be helpful. Index, index, index. To John, Revelation, went a little too far. Jude. They are clouds without rain, blown along by the wind. Autumn trees without fruit and uprooted, twice dead. They are wild waves of the sea, foaming up their shame. Wandering stars for whom blackest darkness has been reserved forever. Let's see. Study notes say, autumn trees without fruit and uprooted, twice dead, though the trees ought to be heavy with fruit, because that's harvest time. Okay, makes sense. And then with regard to the ocean passages, as wind-tossed waves constantly churn up rubbish, so these apostates continually stir up moral filth. Moral filth. Ugh. That's ghastly. Ooh, and it refers us back to Isaiah. Isaiah 57:20. Let's see what Mr. Isaiah has to say that ties in over here. Isaiah. This is fun. (57:20). But the wicked are like the tossing sea, which cannot rest, whose waves cast up mire and mud. Damn apostates making a mess. Unsanitary. Interesting. But it's their nature, though. They were made that way. They can't help it. Interesting. Interesting. Again, I've never been a fan of predestination doctrines, but I had assumed they were just made up out of whole cloth somewhere. I had no idea it was straight out of the epistles. Interesting. I gotta get me a good commentary on Jude. I think there's a lot here. There's a lot to get your teeth into here. Of course, we won't hit Jude in full for another, probably 18 months or more. Stick around. Turn on your notifications. You never know when YouTube might decide to give you one for once. And the last one I've got easy to hand is the old Revised Standard Version. Probably not going to be significantly different than the NRSV, but let's find out just in case. James, Peter, John, Jude. No, it's essentially the same. Waterless clouds carried along by winds, fruitless trees in late autumn, twice dead uprooted, wild waves of the sea, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's the same. Okie dokie. So, Flower's got a good point here. I think the scripture is meant to warn innocent souls for the wolves walking among us. They feast with you, but they sabotage you. And it is not concerned with how these evil souls become dark. I think you're right. It just off the top of my head, it doesn't seem overly concerned with it just acknowledges that they are what they are, and they are how they are, and they've apparently always been how they are. Hey, PJ, good to see you as ever. Hi, Paul. It's not it's a very poetic passage. Very dark. Beautifully imaged, though. Very evocative. Musical. I like it a lot. The language of it. Let me be very clear. I got issues with the theology. But the language of it, that's a beautifully written little piece. Now I find myself looking forward to Jude, and not just because it's the next to last book of the Bible. All right. Well, we're creeping up on the half hour. I think by the time we do closing announcements and I say hello to the chat, I think we'll be at the half hour, and that'll be a good length for this. I think I'll shoot for a half hour for these. We're going to have another episode of this. I don't remember when. I've already scheduled it, but I don't remember when I scheduled it for. We will be reading Matthew chapter 11, verses 28, 29, and 30. That was suggested to me by a theist on Twitter, who I don't know and am completely unfamiliar with, but their troll game is good. And I'll tell that story on the next episode of my favorite Bible story. Hey, Aunt Jer. Yes. Yes, it does. Welcome to the Junk Shop Library channel, where I say there's always an uglier sweater, and I do not lie. Let me check in with the chat real quick before we roll out of here, because I have seen many names go blurring by. Oops, that's as far back as I can scroll. Little Wolf's Den, good to see you. Never Again. A bit of tea and Danish. Happy birthday, lady. Hope it's going well for you. Mr. Nielsen, welcome. Hopefully you're not doing all this texting while you're driving. My wonderful wife, Julie LaVoice, is in the chat. Good to see you. Always, always good to see you. GeoSam. Hey, man, how's it going? Paul Camish, my first and original patron. How are you doing, my friend? Oh, dear, you're on Music's channel. And Flower's here. I'm so glad you made it. I know it's getting on late where you are, but I'm so glad you made it here while we were live. Wild Eden, a new friend of the channel. Hey, how's it going? Let's see. Lisa for Truth, hello. Lovely to see you. For No Reason, welcome. Welcome. Read it again. This is never. Let's see. I think that's everybody. Oh, Mr. Shadow Kitty, how's it going? Excellent. Wonderful. Mark Caesar, I think I said hello to you earlier. If I didn't, I apologize. The Kitty's Bible seems to be the authority, says Mark Caesar. Yeah, well, they went to so much trouble. I've got to make sure and use it from time to time. It's been taking up space on my bookshelf since about 1993, after all. Scrolling, looking for names. Scrolling, looking for names. BJ Smith is in the house. Excellent. And I think that brings us Aunt Jude. I thought I saw you in here. Excellent. Yes, PJ, notifications are stupid. And mine are jacked up beyond all hope of salvation right now. Apparently they were foreordained to fail. Fucking forklift. Foreordained to failure. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for coming today. I know this was a little bit last minute, especially if you're not on the Discord. There's a bot on the Discord that sends out an announcement whenever I schedule a new video or upload one. So there's that. A little more reliable than the YouTube notifications thing. All right. Let me think. Today is Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday. We'll have improv Bible study yet again. We're still trapped in the book of Isaiah, and we may never get out. We'll be starting with... Oh, dear. It's on the bottom. Okay. We'll be starting with... Shit, where were we? Precious Cornerstone. 29. No, we did 29. Woe to Ariel. I'll figure out where we are. We're somewhere in the early 30s. Please talk about another Bible part before you go. I don't have another one on hand, honestly. You'll just have to come back next time for the little piece of the Gospel according to St. Matthew. All right. Thank you so much to y'all for coming out, to my patrons for keeping us going, to my wonderful wife for putting up with me streaming all the damn time. And as we always say before we roll out of here, take care and be safe. Stand against hate. We'll see y'all again soon. Too late, Brainbug. We're going away. Ha-ha. But since Brainbug's here...